Well, they say good things come to those who wait, and boy, haven't we waited. Round 1 in the books. Welcome to a new episode of League Chat with the Stat. How good was round 1? Unbelievable football played. It has been so long. We've waited so long for it. It's finally come. Round 1 in the books, done and dusted. Really excited to bring you a new episode this week, guys. Look, let's get right into it. Let's not muck around here. Straight into the ladder. With obviously the big win over the Dogs. Eagles sit at the top. With the Titans at second. Third is the newcomers, the Dolphins. What a great performance they had against the Chooks. Fourth is Rabbitohs. Fifth, Warriors. Sixth, Storm. Seventh, Broncos. And eighth, Cowboys. With Dragons sitting at ninth, obviously having the bye in the first round. And then going in the following order. Raiders, Panthers, Eels, Knights, Sharks, Roosters, Tigers, and Mighty Dogs. We're going to get right into it, guys. Thank you for joining me on a brand new week this week. Appreciate your support as I've come back in the last couple of weeks. But look, let's get right into it. Storm 16 defeating the Eels 12. Great way to kick off the rugby league season, I've got to be real. Look, it went down to the wire. I thought there were many opportunities where the game could have been won by both sides. I do think the Eels really had the opportunity to capitalise and finish that game off. Look, a couple of plays and a couple of interesting points in that game, especially towards the end of the last 10 minutes. And that second half there when, the Eels get the ball off a scrum, about 8 or 9 minutes to go for left side attacking play. Ends with Sevo getting the ball 10 out, about to get taken out, kicks the ball into touch, and giving the Storm a 7-tackle set. Storm blow that opportunity within the second tackle. Eels get the ball back again. And this is the second play that kind of, had it gone through the right hands, had it gone through the right avenues, it could have genuinely been a Moses field goal from 40 out. I believe it was the next play or 2 plays later. But instead of the Eels giving the ball, Hodgson giving the ball to Moses in 5th tackle, they decide to go down the left-hand side again, but they only get wrapped up with about 20, 30 metres out from their line, which you could see Moses blowing up absolute deluxe, the fact that he didn't receive the ball at that time. Only a couple of minutes left in that game. Had the opportunity to seal it. There was more of a genuine shot of him trying to get it than him not getting it. But look, I think that we can start to see big personalities in the club. Had some information coming to me that, there could be some trouble brewing. Don't know how legitimate it is. I think we're just going to have to see how the season pans out. But Josh Hodgson is a massive personality in the club, and so is Mitch Moses. But even so is Gutherson. So with a lot of big heads in the club and kind of wanting to see how the play goes, look, I think they need a time to really build together. But look, I thought Hodgson had a really good game, played the entire 84 minutes, was solid throughout the whole game, made his mark, was very, in the face of the Melbourne Storm, especially in defence coming through, was pretty nice in attack. Obviously, a couple of plays there where the communication, was a bit of a breakdown there between him and Moses, but they'll look to obviously get that right as the weeks go on. But look, Melbourne, Cameron Munster getting that gruesome finger injury, taping it up, getting injected, coming back on and stealing the show with that magical play in the second half to put young Tonomapea down the left-hand corner. Just sums up Cameron Munster in the form he's been in the last, year and a bit. Just since Origin 2020, the way he's come in. 2021 was a little bit poor, but last year was just unbelievable. The way he's elevated his game to a new level. Storm obviously lucky to have him for the next 3 or 4 years at the club, but I thought, the way, he just brought the game back together. I thought the way he snuck in there, he got into the boys at halftime and really G'd them up to kind of bring in something magical there. Really important to see, but he brought the Storm right back into the game when it seemed like all hope was lost. So look, the Eels, like I said, they are missing, Madison. They are missing Nathan Brown, but I thought their back row did a pretty solid job. I thought Bryce Cartwright had a solid game, but the highlight for me was Jermaine Hopgood. And isn't he that good, right? Goodness me. Played the entire 84 minutes, 50-odd tackles, almost 200 metres run, very busy in that game. And obviously, Penrith was spewing to lose someone like him, but Parramatta have absolutely gained a genius, in the way he plays. Only got a handful of games. We saw just how good he could be, in the Indigenous All-Stars game against the Māori All-Stars. But Jermaine Hopgood, yeah, look, he is that good. Had an unreal game. Obviously, scored me a beauty in Supercoach, 101. Would have scored about 70% odd people that play Supercoach. A decent score there too. Look, we're yet to see the best of him, and I really think he's going to elevate his game to a new level. But Storm do get the biggest in the end on that Thursday night thriller. And the Eels, yeah, look, just got to tweak a couple of things. But that try at the end, the Harry Grant, he's absolutely brilliant. Probably the reason why he's, the Australian hooker. Just so smart. The way he snuck under and, broke through from RCG to get that ball right on the line. Magical play and a great way to kick off round 1 in the 2023 NRL season. The Warriors 20 defeated the Knights 12. Look, just want to say how good it is to finally have consistent rugby league that's scheduled to be in New Zealand this year. After the many years that they've sacrificed, which I've harped on about for a while now, really good to see round 1 game in New Zealand. No more COVID-affected games, no more COVID bubbles, which is really cool. But look, a great fight back by the Warriors. Knights got out to that lead early in that second half, 12.6, but the Warriors hung in there. The Warriors winning 10-6, but it's Knights kind of swept back in there. But, the Warriors held their ground in defence, turned up for each other. And as long as they were patient in defence, it started to turn some decent plays into attack. And obviously, with about 6 minutes to go with Wade Egan scoring right near the posts to kind of seal the game for the Warriors there. Look, the Knights were in the contest for about 70 minutes of that game. That extremely questionable HIA call to send Ponga off with 10 minutes to go was the wrong call. I don't believe that was the right thing to do. Kind of starts to bring up the debate about the independent doctors. Look, I just think they got it wrong in that instance. There haven't been many instances where they've got it wrong so far, but that was a complete shambles of a call. Knights could have actually gone on to win that game, had things gone their way. But Ponga coming off obviously affected the Knights there. I thought he had a better game than obviously in recent times. First game at 6, obviously a lot to work on, with Brayley, with Hastings, with Miller. But I thought it was really good. Until then, he looked threatening at times when he had the ball. Obviously, the first 2 minutes, put that ball in for Fitzgibbon to score the try. But look, the Warriors, they turned up for each other in the second half. You could see that the players were really comfortable out there, playing back in New Zealand. I thought Sean Johnson had a solid game. Obviously, a lot of improvement in him as well. Jackson Ford played a good 61 minutes. Was a handful, especially in attack, and was pretty solid in defence as well. Tohu Harris, another barnstorming 80-minute performance from him. Just expecting greatness from that guy. Charles Nicoll-Clockster, coming back from, being away from the Warriors for a couple of years, going to the Raiders, coming back to the Warriors, dropped that bomb early on to, concede that first try within a couple of minutes. But look, the boys turned up for each other. Nicoll-Clockster then to go on to score a great try as well, in his return to New Zealand. So that was really a fitting way for him to come back there. But look, I do have a concern around Josh Curran, only playing 19 minutes. We know the impact he's had in the last couple of years at the Warriors on a nice contract till 2025. I just don't know why he only played 19 minutes. Look, I know Jackson Ford started, and was instrumental, but 19 minutes for Josh Curran. He came on and immediately made an impact where he could have scored that try, which is obviously disallowed. But Curran can he can break a game. We know the impact that he's had in recent years for the Warriors. We just know how good he is on the field. To see him only play 19 minutes is a concern. Don't know if there's something to do with injury or maybe just Jackson Ford is ahead in the pecking order, which I would not have seen coming for the life of me. But look, there are some question marks around that, so that's one to keep an eye out for over the next couple of weeks. Look, the Knights, as I said, their spine will need to take some time. I think Greg Marju will come in when he recovers from that hip point injury, and I think he'll make a genuinely massive impact. And we know what he did for the Titans. We know exactly what he can bring to the Knights squad as well. But like I said, Warriors 20 defeating the Knights 12 over in New Zealand. Broncos 13 defeating the Panthers 12 at Panthers Stadium in that second Friday night clash. Such good defense from the Broncos. They really hung in there for each other. They defended their life, for their life. You could see, especially in that second half, just how well they turned up for each other. And that seemed to be the common trend for a few of these clubs in a few of the games that happened on the weekend as well. But the Bronx, unreal football. The halves controlled that game really well. Ezra Mam, breaking the line a couple of times, looking really threatening. Adam Reynolds with his phenomenal kicking game, obviously making a difference there. But for the Panthers, they did struggle a lot. You can tell they're already missing Koroisau, especially around the 9, and what he can do around the ruck. I thought it was a bit of a questionable tactic, to have Mitch Kenny play majority of that game, and then for the Panthers to only look threatening when Sonny Luke came on, really says a lot. Had he been on earlier, they could have done something else. Game could have gone down a different route, if I'm going to be completely honest. But look, they are missing Koroisau deeply. It's going to take some time for them to adapt without him. But I think Sonny Luke should come on earlier. Mitch Kenny, get him to play in the first 20, max 25, and then the rest of that game having Sonny Luke come on, and then Mitch Kenny playing a bit of a prop lock role. So that way he's getting a good 50 minutes in that game as well. But I just think Sonny Luke has way more impact, especially threatening out a dummy half more than Mitch Kenny does. So that's something that the Panthers really need to look at, and just seeing how Ivan Cleary will work around that. But look, for the Bronx, like I said, the halves were instrumental. I thought the forwards led by example. Payne Haas, again, Patrick Carrigan, the glue to that forward pack. Carrigan, carrying in the form that he took in when he played for Australia last year in that World Cup, bringing it straight into the club. Look, now it's about backing it up for the Broncos. This is probably one of the best defensive efforts we've seen in a pretty long time, especially to do it at the Panthers ground. So now they go to Suncorp this week to take on the Cowboys. Can they back it up is the question. They'll get Reece Walsh back, which we'll get into a bit later. But look, I was really pleased with the Broncos' performance. Panthers have a bit to work on, not major concerns. It's not, okay, well, their dream run has ended. Nothing like that. Just a bit of a hiccup in the road as they get used to Croissant not being there. So, but look, Broncos fans should be ecstatic with that win. And Panthers fans, I wouldn't be stressing too much about that either. It's going to be tough. Seagulls 31 defeating the Bulldogs 6. Seagulls, at home, sellout crowd in Brookie. Played well. I'll be honest, they played really well. Put up quite a performance. The most pleasing thing out of that was defensively. I thought they held their own really well. They didn't allow the Dogs to kind of break the line at any point. But in attack, some of the tries were just ridiculously easy. That's because the Bulldogs played that poorly. Having Cherry Evans score, a hat-trick on us is, it's not ideal. His first hat-trick in his career. But look, very simple tries, but at the end of the day, there seems to be a bond there that may have been missing in the last couple of years. So could Seabold have already had a massive impact on the club already? Time will tell, but it's a great start. 31-6 over the Dogs. The Dogs, very bad. It's like it's the new year, same Bulldogs. Look, obviously time will tell with the combinations and how they go, but, too much drop ball. I thought their defense was so clunky. The Seagulls turned up in defense a lot. I remember Ryan Sutton took about 3 or 4 hit-ups and got absolutely demoralized every time we took a hit-up. Just concerning, with the way Dogs played. Very error-filled, letting soft tries. The attack was not good. I thought the halves were really quiet. Flanagan outshone Burton, which is something really concerning for Burton. I thought Viliame Kikau was horrendous. I thought some of their last tackle options were poor, having Kikau kick that ball out on the full, Burton kicking out on the full. Just, they need to turn this around quick smart. I know it takes some time to build these combinations, but I think you can't train how to catch a ball. You should be able to know how to catch a ball. I thought they were really poor in some areas. Some of the areas that led to intercept tries. I thought Burton's pass to Cherry Evans at the end was just disgraceful. I thought that was just very lazy play, not committing to play the 80 minutes. So Serrada has to come in and fix something up quick smart as we take on Melbourne this week. But look, I am panicking a little bit already. I know it's round one. Just think, with the preseason we had and the way it was talked up, you think that it would be something of, real importance that we come off and starting really well. If losing the game, at least competing the 80 minutes, we didn't seem like we competed at all. They ran circles around us. I thought Tom Trbojevic was solid without being exceptional. You could tell he's still hampered by the injury. You could still tell he's being really hesitant to, how he runs and how he breaks the line and everything else. So it's going to take some time for him to adapt to his new style of training, as well as, rehab and conditioning and everything else. But look, he was still very good. I won't take that away from him. Obviously, we've seen him in full flight and he's unreal to watch, but I think he was taking a lot of caution, especially, first full game back, round one of the season as well. So we'll start to see the best of him as time goes on. But the Dogs have to turn it around quick. Just very poor in a lot of areas. And Serrada has a massive job in front of him. Just when he thought he could have been pretty good, he's got a massive job in front of him. Cowboys 19 defeating the Raiders 18. Great first half from the Cowboys, kind of setting the platform for the game, leading to halftime 18-6. Picking up why they left off last year, to be quite honest with you. Cotter, outstanding game, clocked over 200 metres, made 40-odd tackles. Reece Robson, just his impact around dummy half, he's just getting better and better by the week. Dearden, not afraid to take on the line at all. Like I said, every player there just kind of picking up from last season. Scott Drinkwater having another blind of a game. Townsend the way he's running that ship. Really, really good stuff to see. Look, you thought at one point when they scored back-to-back tries, Cowboys, in the first half, that they're going to run away with the game, with the Raiders struggling a little bit, dropping a lot of ball, turning the ball over, giving away a lot of cheap penalties. You thought that the Cowboys were going to run with it. But look, I've got to give credit to the Raiders. There was a solid, fight back from the Raiders in that second half. They stuck it to the Cowboys and showed that they were in for the fight. I think the weather, obviously, it would have played a part, but I don't think it was as impactful as they were expecting it to be. But they dug deep. they fought back from 18-6 down to 18-all. It was a not Cherry Evans. It was a Townsend field goal that kind of put the game to bed at the end there. But look, there's some concerns around the Raiders that I have. Jordan Rapana is starting to become a massive liability. Anytime he gets to our tackle now, he's suspended. His rap sheet is only getting worse and worse. He's now going to be out for the next couple of weeks or so, from what I'm seeing. At the end of the day, he's got to clean up his act a little bit. You don't want someone like him being a liability, especially for the Raiders, especially in the time where he's coming towards the end of his career as well. Any experience that he can bring to that side is valuable. So I believe there's a bit of work in him that he needs to do. But I think the joke, the massive thing that kind of G'd me up on the weekend was Ricky Stewart's blow up. It gives me this garbage about the whole player welfare, about playing Queensland round 1, 4:30, talking about player welfare. If they played that in round 1, if they played that in round 6, if they played that in round 11, round 15, round 26, round 27, grand final. I know it sounds a bit ridiculous, but if a game ever moved there for grand final, is he going to start complaining about player welfare? I just think it was really poor from Ricky Stewart. I think he should take that back, if I'm honest with you. Just an absolute imbecilic move and just a dumb thought. Player welfare. It's not like they're playing in the snow and it's minus 15, 20 degrees. They're not playing at 2 o'clock in the morning. They're playing Queensland at 4:30. Their time, 5:30 our time. Every club goes to Queensland to play. It's not just the Raiders. So I don't know what was going on in his brain there. I think there's just an excuse every time the Raiders lose. He wants to come and say something to it. And I love Ricky Stewart, but I just think that was a bit of a silly call there that he made in relation to that game. But look, Raiders will take a lot of confidence from that game, building in that second half. Letting the game slip in the first half is definitely not ideal, but bringing that game back into the second half and competing. Look, I think it can build something good here for the Raiders, and they just need to be able to carry that momentum through, but turn it around that first half and put in better performances that last the 80 minutes. Rabbitohs 27, defeating the Sharks 18. Impressive win from the Souths again. Really impressive that they played a chunk of that game with 15 men. Tavita Totola gone, first tackle of the game due to concussion. Mid to late first half, Jairo going down with a hamstring injury. So really good to see the boys dig deep, playing with 15 men. Blake Taffy didn't get a run at all because they needed the amount of as many forwards as they could get out there. The Troll did cop a bit of a knock to the knee, PCL injury, doesn't need surgery, isn't able to play this week. But I thought he was pretty good. I thought he played well, complementing the halves and obviously Cookie there. I thought this was probably Lachlan Ilias' best game, since he's come to top grade. Nothing better, and I've got to say this, I love Ronaldo Mulatado. I don't think there was anything better than wiping the smoke off his face after he dropped that ball. Just beautiful. But it just shows the commitment in defense from Ilias. They was not willing to give up. He wasn't just going to allow Mulatado to just run it with it. He had that big smoke in his face. Ilias could have just pulled back and Mulatado could have scored and we could have seen potentially a different game. But the commitment and the determination to get there in the end, regardless whether it was going to be a try or no try, and the fact that it led to a no try for Mulatado, big moment for Ilias. Obviously, he scored a try as well, set up 1 or 2 as well, broke the line a couple of times, looked really threatening. So starting to come of his own. So, and again, against a quality side like the Sharks, obviously missing Nico Hines, still a quality side nonetheless. I thought it was a really big performance from him and a performance that he needed to just prove himself that he's going to be all right and be a genuine 7 in the competition. For the Sharkies, look, a really poor performance at home, if I've got to be real. 64% completion rate, missing 52 tackles, just doesn't cut in the NRL. Fitzgibbon, they've got a bit of work to do to turn that side around. No major alarm bells there. Not many massive red flags, I'm going to be honest with you, but you can't win games if you're completing games at 64% completion, and you're missing 52 tackles. So not something that's very good for the club. Obviously, Fitzgibbon has a bit of work to do, but I think they'll turn it around there. But I thought Trindle, was great in the 7 jumper, looked threatening in attack, putting some good kicks, great kicking game. That try he scored as well, a bit of brilliance there. Doesn't look out of place, and we know he's a great replacement for Hines, which is why he did re-sign for a few years in the off-season. So while they are waiting for Hines to come back, could be a couple of weeks, Trindle's doing a pretty fine job there at 7. Big talking point of round 1. Dolphins 28, defeating the Roosters 18. Gotta say, I didn't see it coming. But then again, this is just a classic writing off Wayne Bennett at your own peril. Unbelievable. The side, everyone has gone in and said, it's, Dad's Army, the weak backs. They won't do anything this year, probably finish the spoon. But he's come out again and just proven that no matter who he signs, no matter what, they'll dig deep, they'll get the job done. Unreal. 33,000 at Suncorp Stadium to see that. Would have loved to be part of that. It's a Wayne Bennett masterclass. You won't see it much better than that from him. He did it 20 or 30 odd years ago, and then he's done it again. And the way he just is still in the game, the way he makes an impact, no matter where he goes, for a brand new club, to come in to the comp and to put in a team like the Roosters away is a massive deal. So massive raps to the Dolphins there. The Roosters were poor in saying that as well. They did lose Victor Radley twice to HIA, which ended up ruling out for the game. Brendan Smith, HIA, and copped a knock to the ribs as well, so I wasn't playing 100% either. Matt Lodge went down with a cheekbone injury. Obviously already missing Joey Manu and Jared Warira-Hargraves. A lot of people missing off the park there. So I thought it was just a performance where the Roosters really need to, chime in. Nat Butcher played okay, covering there for Angus Crichton, who's out indefinitely. But yeah, the Roosters need to really pick that up. And I just think the way they played could not compare with the Dolphins, which I never thought I would be able to say on my podcast here. But, the Dolphins, you give credit where it's due. Their forward pack, led by example. Kafusi, 2 massive shots in that first half to really set the standard when the game was 12-all, just before halftime, that they're not here to muck around, they're here to play some footy. Katoa started off slow on his debut, but as the game went on, he started to find his feet, getting more comfortable, started to find his voice in the team, and, put Osako in there for a double. I thought there was a calming presence about him as the game went on. Sean O'Sullivan, pretty decent game from him. Very vocal, very, all up in that, especially in that first half, getting amongst all the attack, getting the plays in there. But yeah, it's the experienced men that really stood up. Mark Nichols, the Bromwich boys, Kafusi. Ray Stone off the bench was fantastic. Gilbert played well as well. So there's a lot to like about the Dolphins. It's now just a matter of them trying to keep that up and seeing if they can back that up week in, week out. But yeah, Roosters have some work to do. Obviously, they're expecting some cavalry back to come this week and over the next couple of weeks. But look, Dolphins sitting in the top 4. I know it's round 1, but it doesn't get better than that, if I'm honest with you. Last game of the round, Titans 22 defeating the Tigers 10 at Leichhardt in the Sunday night game there. Titans kicking off the year with a win. Love how they did a bit of a switcheroo there with Dave Fafita, moving to the other side of the field to be linked up with Foran, and it showed with the Titans' first try. Short ball from Foran to Fafita, making that break, passing it down to Sammy to score in the corner. The second half in their defense for the Titans won them that game. Tigers came at them relentlessly in the second half. And I give credit to hold it down there to Brett White, who was signed over from the Raiders to the Titans, to instill some grunt in that Titans defense. I've got to say it worked out well. All things considered, the game being 22-10 and the Tigers trying to come at them as much as they could throughout the entire game, especially in that second half. Bummer there. Look, very impressive from the Titans. It's a good start. Hopefully they can look to maintain that and keep that going. The Tigers struggled a lot. I thought it was another questionable call for Corey Sow to play 45 minutes of that game when he's an 80-minute hooker. Jake Simpson came and started the game, but I think if Corey Sow had started, it would have had a massive impact on the game and probably would have even changed the result. Sheens did confirm that he was coming from a niggling calf injury, that he didn't get much time in the offseason to play any games. But I just think you've got to have your best players on the park. Corey Sow is fit enough to be named to play 40 minutes. He should be able to play 80 minutes. Look, obviously Bateman has just come in, from the UK, so he's got to get some time to adjust. But I thought the way he was involved in everything was the most threatening in the side. But like I said, just not enough to break the Titans' defense. But you got to keep someone like Corey Sow, who you've signed on for big money, and he's the captain of your side the entire 80 minutes. Okay, and to conclude that section of the podcast, the Dragons had the bye, which is why they're sitting on 9th, and they'll play their first game this week. All right, over to our Supercoach segment. Starting off the year pretty well. I finished on 1,135. My team, starting from fullbacks, I have James Tedesco, who scored 51, and it was my captain, bit of a poor captain choice, and Tom Trbojevic, who scored 97 as my reserve. My centre wings, I had Val Holmes, 63, Charles Nickel-Klokstad, 70, Simi Turuva, 39, and Paul Alamotti, 22. And on my non-playing reserves, I had Brandon Williami, 48, Alex Camperera at 5, very poor from him in terms of Supercoach. Not really a busy winger, more a bit laid back and just there to score tries. And Will Warbrick, who scored 30 In the halves, I have Adam Dwyer, who scored 89, scoring a try and looking threatening every time we had the ball, and that try assist to Dan Laurie as well. And had non-playing reserve Isaiah Katoa, who scored 42. Nathan Cleary, my vice-captain, 53, with my non-playing reserve Tanner Boyd on the bench of 35. Second row, I had Cam Murray, 84, Patrick Carrigan, 74, and Elisa Katoa, 54. My reserve, Jermaine Hopgood, 101. My non-playing reserves, Sean Kepi, 40, and Pasami Sola, 40, scoring 42 there. My front rowers, Joseph Tapane scored 57 and Ruben Cotter 63. My reserve for the weekend was Stefano Utoy Kamanu, scored 38, and David Mawali playing additional minutes this week, scoring 42. And Harry Grant, my main hooker, 91, and Brendan Smith on the bench coming at 38. So scoring a total of 1,135. Some trades will be planned this week, which I'll go through next week. And obviously with Manly having the bye this week, Tom Dvorovich will not be in my reserve, so I'm going to look at figuring out exactly what I'm going to put as my reserve there. News around the NRL world. Back again on this. We're going to recap everything just from the last week. Not much to go through in insane news. But look, Dylan Harper has signed a training trial with the Chooks, coming back from France, not being re-signed there. He's now joined the club again on a training trial deal. Still on the Roosters, Victor Radley and Egan Butcher have re-signed with the club. Victor Radley is there for an additional 4 years, and Egan Butcher is there for an additional 2 years. Marcus Sevo is re-signed with the Eels to the end of 2025. Sam Stonestreet, Sharks back there. The club has re-signed till 2025 as well. Dave Fafita re-signed till 2026, staying with the Titans after rejecting more money from the Raiders and rejecting an opportunity to go back to the Broncos there. Tata Amoni is free to play. Was subject to the no fault rule. Obviously, his attack on the tradie that happened over the offseason has changed from the federal court to the local court. I believe that's how it works. So the max sentence he was looking at, which was 14 years, has now dropped down to the local court. We'll now be looking at maximum 5 years jail time. He's no longer under the no-fault stand-down policy and has been named on the extended bench to play this week. So, good news for the Dragons there. And the last bit of information is Storm, the Raiders, are among some clubs that are chasing Pat Carrigan for 2025 onwards. Some clubs looking to throw about $800,000 to $900,000 at him per season. The Broncos will be retaliating. Considering that they've lost Flegler and Farnworth, they'll be throwing the checkbook at Pat Carrigan to keep him at the club long term. So, it'll be juicy there. I know it's a bit early before 2025, not barely through 2023, but just some player talk there already around a gun lock in Patrick Carrigan. All right, the ins and outs for round 2. We've got Panthers coming up against the Rabbitohs on Thursday night. Scott Sorensen is out with concussion, replaced by Matt Eisenuth, who had a very good game in Cup, making about 140 meters and making 56 tackles without a miss. For the Rabbitohs, Junior Totola will be replaced by Daniel Fafita. He's out with a concussion. Michael Cheekham is replacing J.R. Arrow with a hamstring injury, and Jed Cartwright will join the bench there. I'm going to just, based off last week, going to go the Rabbitohs for an upset again. Penrith to go 0-2 at home and 0-2 to start the season. Eels come up against the Sharks. Sean Russell is back on the wing, serving a suspension from New South Wales Cup for round 1, and will take the spot of Isaac Lumi, who's been dropped. For the Sharks, Wade Graham is suspended for the next 4 weeks. Will be replaced by Connor Tracy on the bench, and Royce Hunt replaces Jack Williams, who's out with a concussion as well. It's a bit of a tough game, this one. I'm looking to see an Eels bounce back, and I think Eels will be able to pip the Sharks there, especially no Nico Hines. The Broncos come up against the Cowboys, which should be a Friday night beauty. Reece Walsh is back in the squad, back in the side, making his club debut, pushing Solon Cobo to the wing, and pushing Jesse Arthurs out to 18th man. For the Cowboys, they are 1-17. Probably don't know why I have Eagles there, but the Cowboys are 1-17, and we're looking to, start the year 2-0. It's going to be a tough game, this one. I think with Reece Walsh coming into fullback, need some time to adjust. It's going to go down to the wire. Probably going to go Cowboys by 2. I'm not seeing much in this game, but I think Cowboys will pip them just and by 2 points there. Roosters come up against the Warriors on Saturday. Joey Manu's back from a cheekbone injury that he suffered in preseason, pushing Drew Hutchinson to the bench, and Corey Allen is the 18th man. And Fletcher Baker will replace Matt Lodge, who's out with a cheekbone injury for the next 4 to 6 weeks. And for the Warriors, they are 1-17. I think with Joey Manu's inclusion on the side, I'm going to go Roosters to win and win by about 6 to 8 points. The Dolphins play their first game at home and will be taking on the Raiders. Mason Teague will make his debut this week and will replace Ray Stone, who has a knee injury. And for the Raiders, Albert Hopewadi will take the spot of Jordan Rapana, who is suspended for the next 3 weeks. The Storm come up against the Bulldogs on Saturday night. Tyron Wishart will take the spot of Cam Munster, who's out with that finger injury, and Aaron Penne coming onto the bench. Dogs are 1-17. Oh, sorry. In that previous game, I think Dolphins will take the bickies there and probably pip on over the Raiders, especially at home. And in this game for the Storm against the Dogs, you'd be crazy to be tipping Bulldogs, so definitely going to be backing Melbourne Storm on this one. Tigers come up against the Knights. So you got Joe Ofahengawi and Alex 12 swap between starting and bench. And Alex Seyfarth will take the spot of Funua Pole, who is injured his knee. For the Knights, Dan Gago will take the spot of Anari Tuala, who's been dropped. And Adam Elliott has suffered a groin injury, who's replaced on the bench there by Jack Johns. And gonna go in and say Tigers to get the win, pending Corey South if he plays the 80 minutes. We'll be tipping a Tigers victory there in their first one of the season. And the Dragons, they have named their squad for the first time this season. So having a look at the squad here. So at fullback, they have Tyrell Sloan. On the wings, they've got Matthew Feagai and Michaeli Ravalawa. Centers have got Moses Sully and Zach Lomax. The halves, Jaden Sullivan will come into 6 with Ben Hunt at 7. The back row, Ben Murdoch-Masila, Jaden Sua will be the second row. Jack Bird coming in at lock. DeBellin is out with an injury at the moment. In the forwards, Francis Molo and Blake Laurie round up the forward pack there, and Moses Mbai will play hooker. On the bench is Jacob Little, Zane Musgrove, Toby Couchman, 19-year-old making his debut, and Michael Molo. And aside there, coming up against the Titans this week, Titans are 1-17. Although Forrest suffered an MCL PCL injury, which will be out for 2 to 4 weeks, he is still been named in the side there. So I think a bit of mind games from the Titans. I think Titans will win this one. I think the way they played last week, I think they show they can do it again on the road back-to-back. And I think Titans will take the Chocolates there by about 10 to 12 points. And the club that has the bye this week, the Sea Eagles. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Enjoy the rugby league this week. And stay tuned for the podcast next week when we'll discuss everything from round 2. Have a good one, guys. Take it easy.